Title: Pack Your Things. The board voted you out. My brother-in-law sneered. My wife smiled coldly. We'll handle the company without you. I nodded calmly and said, Of course. But have you read Section 17 of the contract? The next morning, their world collapsed. Chapter 1. The coup. The boardroom was heavy with tension. The long mahogany table reflected the cold fluorescent lights, and every pair of eyes seemed fixed on me. My brother-in-law, Greg, leaned back in his chair, a smug smile spreading across his face. Pack your things. The board voted you out, he announced, his voice laced with triumph. Beside him, my wife, well, soon-to-be ex-wife, crossed her arms, her smile sharp and cruel. We'll handle the company without you, she said smoothly, as if this had all been decided weeks ago, which, knowing her, it had. I glanced around the room. A few board members shifted uncomfortably, but none dared meet my eyes. The betrayal was unanimous. I let the silence stretch, my heartbeat steady. Then I nodded calmly. Of course, I said, my tone light, almost amused. But as I stood, I slid a folder across the table. My eyes locked on Greg's as I added, But before you celebrate, have you read Section 17 of the contract? Their smug grins faltered. I picked up my briefcase, tucked it under my arm, and walked out, ignoring the whispering that erupted behind me. They had no idea what they had just triggered. Because Section 17 wasn't just a clause. It was a trap, and I had written it myself. Chapter 2. Section 17. By the time I reached home that night, my phone was buzzing with calls from Greg and my wife. I ignored every single one. They didn't deserve answers yet. Instead, I poured myself a glass of scotch and opened the original contract, the one I'd written with my father before the company ever took on outside investors. Section 17. The one clause nobody ever bothered to read because they thought it was just legal filler. It stated, in plain terms, in the event of any hostile removal of the CEO without cause, all executive voting rights revert to the founding trust for a period of 1 year. During this period, no shares may be sold, transferred, or exercised, and all major decisions must be approved by the trust's executor. And who was the executor? Me. I could almost hear their laughter from earlier that day echoing in my head. Pack your things. You're out. No, I thought. You're the ones who are out. The next morning, the collapse began. Chapter 3. The panic. By 8 a.m., my phone lit up again. This time, it wasn't Greg or my wife. It was the company's chief financial officer. Sir, I think you should know, he began cautiously. The banks have frozen the executive accounts. Section 17 was triggered. I sipped my coffee. Good, that's exactly what it's supposed to do. An hour later, I walked into the office. Greg was already there, red-faced, barking at the CFO. My wife sat beside him, her arms crossed, but her confident smile from yesterday had vanished. What the hell is this, Liam? Greg snapped as soon as he saw me. The accounts are locked. We can't approve payroll, we can't authorize contracts, we can't do anything. I dropped a thick binder on the conference table. Section 17, I said evenly. You should have read it before you tried your little coup. My wife's voice trembled. You planned this? I met her eyes. I planned for betrayal. I just didn't expect it to come from my own family so soon. The room fell silent. The board members looked from me to Greg to my wife. Their eyes told me everything. Yesterday they thought they'd gotten rid of me. Today they realized they'd just handed me absolute control for the next 12 months. And I wasn't going to waste a single day. Chapter 4. The lockdown. The next board meeting was chaos. Greg stormed in waving a stack of papers, his tie half undone, his voice cracking with rage. This is sabotage, he shouted. You can't just freeze everything. We have deals on the table, contracts waiting to be signed. You're destroying the company. I stayed calm, flipping through my notes. Correction. I'm protecting the company. Section 17 prevents hostile takeovers, insider trading, and reckless decisions. You two triggered it, not me. My wife slammed her hand on the table. This is insane. We're your family. You're ruining us." I looked her dead in the eyes. "You stopped being family the moment you voted me out." The CFO cleared his throat. "Without Liam's approval, nothing can move forward. No contracts, no budget allocations, no executive salaries." Greg froze. "What do you mean? No salaries?" The CFO's voice was almost apologetic. "I mean, you and Mrs. Hale aren't getting paid, effective immediately." Gasps rippled around the table. My wife's face drained of color. Greg's jaw worked furiously, but no words came out. I leaned back in my chair, letting the silence choke them. For the next 12 months, every decision comes through me. Every penny requires my signature. And trust me. I gave a slow, cold smile. I'm not signing anything that benefits either of you. For the first time, I saw fear flicker in their eyes. The empire they thought they stole was slipping away, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. Chapter 5. Exposed. The following week, I launched an internal audit, a quiet but thorough sweep of the company's finances. Section 17 gave me absolute authority, and I intended to use it. Within days, the cracks began to show. Greg had been funneling company funds into consulting fees for his side ventures. My wife had authorized personal expenses, designer clothes, vacations, even a new car, under executive business development. When the audit report landed on the boardroom table, the silence was deafening. The directors looked from me to them, their faces hard with disgust. "This isn't just negligence," one of the board members muttered. "This is fraud." Greg slammed his fist down. "This is a setup. He's framing us." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I simply pushed a USB drive across the table. Every receipt, every transfer, every signature. My wife's face went pale as the CFO pulled up the files on the projector. Her name glowed in neon on expense after expense. By the time the meeting ended, they weren't just embarrassed, they were cornered. The same family that had laughed at me days earlier was now staring at the abyss, and I was the one who had opened it beneath their feet. And the best part? This was only the beginning. Chapter 6. The Public Collapse. The scandal broke faster than I expected. A single leaked report, the audit I'd authorized, found its way into the hands of a journalist who loved nothing more than exposing corporate corruption. The headline the next morning read, "Family Empire Rocked by Fraud Allegations. CFO Confirms Misuse of Funds." Phones rang off the hook. Investors pulled out. Clients froze contracts. By noon, Greg and my wife stormed into my office, their faces twisted in panic. "You leaked this," Greg snarled. "You're destroying everything." I leaned back, calm. Number U destroyed everything the moment you decided greed mattered more than loyalty. I just let the truth speak for itself. My wife's voice cracked. "Please, fix this. Tell them it was a misunderstanding. We'll make it up to you." I stood, looking them both in the eye. "You called me useless. You tried to erase me. But here's the thing. Empires aren't destroyed by outsiders. They collapse from the rot within, and you two were the rot." That afternoon, the board convened an emergency session. By unanimous vote, Greg and my wife were suspended pending investigation. Their access badges were deactivated on the spot. And me? I walked out of the boardroom not just reinstated, but with more authority than ever before. They wanted me gone. Instead, they handed me the perfect revenge, watching their empire burn while I rebuilt it stronger, without them. Chapter 7. The Final Blow. The lawsuits came first. The SEC, tipped off by the audit and media reports, launched an official investigation. Both Greg and my wife were subpoenaed, forced to hand over every document, every account statement. Their smugness evaporated overnight, replaced by sleepless eyes and trembling hands. Then came the creditors. With their salaries frozen and assets under scrutiny, debt collectors circled like vultures. Luxury cars were repossessed. Their mansion, bought on inflated bonuses, went up for foreclosure. But the worst wasn't financial. It was personal. Friends stopped returning their calls. The same society circles that once praised them now whispered behind their backs, mocking their fall from grace. Invitations dried up, and when they showed their faces in public, people pointed, cameras flashing, headlines labeling them frauds and traitors. One evening, I ran into them outside the courthouse. Greg, disheveled, muttered, "You'll pay for this." I stepped close enough for him to see the calm in my eyes. "No, Greg, I already have. Every day you wake up to this nightmare, remember? I didn't ruin you. You did." My wife's voice cracked, almost pleading. "Liam, can't we just start over?" I gave her the same smile she once gave me when she thought she'd destroyed me. "You had everything. My loyalty, my trust, my love. And you threw it away for greed. Now you have exactly what you chose. Nothing." As I walked away, the cameras captured her face, ashen, broken, humiliated. The empire they tried to steal now lay in ashes, and the man they cast aside stood taller than ever, with the company, respect, and freedom fully restored. And that was the sweetest revenge of all. Epilogue: rebuilding. 6 months later, the company was thriving again. With Greg and my ex-wife gone, the toxic rot was cut out. The employees who once looked uncertain now walked the halls with confidence, knowing the business was finally being run with integrity. We secured new partnerships, cleaned up our image, and rebuilt trust in the market. The numbers spoke for themselves. Profits soared higher than ever. As for me, I found something even more valuable than success: peace. I no longer woke up with the weight of betrayal on my chest. I had proven to myself and the world that loyalty, patience, and quiet strength win in the end. And them? Greg was buried under lawsuits, bankrupt and despised. My ex-wife tried to crawl back into society, but her name was synonymous with fraud. Invitations stopped, friends vanished. Every door slammed in her face. Sometimes I'd hear rumors, her begging for work, Greg spiraling further into debt, but I never sought them out. They weren't my concern anymore. One evening, as I walked out of the office, the sunset painting the city in gold, I thought about the day they told me I was worthless, that I was finished, and I smiled. Because the sweetest revenge wasn't just watching them lose everything. It was knowing that I had gained everything they could never buy: respect, freedom, and the chance to live a life on my terms. That was justice. That was closure. That was revenge. Was this revenge perfectly justified? Tell us what you think about this story in the comments below. Like the story, if you think this story is justified, share it with someone who needs this energy, and subscribe to Lauren's Story for more jaw-dropping tales of betrayal and justice. Because here, every lie has its reckoning, and every betrayal finds its shadow. Stay sharp, stay strong, and stay tuned.